Next up is the Sacral Center. And the Sacral Center is the center presented by the square in the lower middle of the body graph. It represents work and life force energy, energy which is vital for life, reproduction, sustainability, and sexuality. The sacral is designed to respond to life, communicating to you in the present moment, meaning it generates energy when it's responding to things, situations, or people in the environment, often knowing instinctively whether something is correct for them or not. The response in this center is an internal gut feeling, a physical response, sometimes even a full body hell yes or hell no answer to the question at hand, or in reaction to the environment itself, meaning either feeling a sense of excitement or interest, or a sense of disinterest or even repulsion. The sacral center is a motor center and is the only center that can provide sustainable energy. This means that those with a defined sacral center often have an abundant supply of energy for work, creativity, and relationships. People who only have a defined heart, solar plexus, or root center, on the other hand, will experience that the motor energy within those centers is something that's available to them, but only under certain conditions. This is an on switch that only on rare occasions of complete burnout is not reliable and available to the owner. Burnout can happen if the person with sacral energy repeatedly tries to create primarily from the thoughts in their mind instead of in response to the outer environment and the answer their body gives them. The strategy for generators and manifesting generators is to wait to respond when an invitation or opportunity comes along, and then respond to it by listening to the answers that their bodies are giving them. Having a defined sacral center gives the generator types the ability to do what needs to be done even when they don't like it. If the situation or job at hand doesn't feel great, it means that they don't unleash the full capacity of the sacral power, but they can do the job. Interestingly enough, the sacral center is the most powerful motor in the human design system, but it lacks direction on its own. It relies on other centers for guidance, for example, the emotional solar plexus center, the spleen center, or through the connection with the G center. It is the generator types that do the work of the world, putting all the parts together. And the defined sacral has the theme of being masterful through sustained work and effort. It's important that you are responding to what excites you, though. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep that energy up in the long run. The fear of the defined sacral center is to wait, thinking if I don't do anything, nothing will happen, and I will be sitting here all revved up with nowhere to go for the rest of my life, which is, of course, not true. So there's a process of learning how to let go and to stop using the head to create, and learning how to trust that when you stop doing things, the next right step naturally shows up for you. If you just keep responding instead of creating from your mind, the energy will naturally show up. Generators who are not responding are leaving a lot of energy on the table and are really missing out on that thing that they are craving so much, that meaning of life and in life. The meaning of life is often activated when they stop trying and start letting it unfold by responding instead. The way in which the generator types experience sexual energy, the way they think about it, and the way they act on it is fairly consistent. It doesn't mean you can't grow over time or that there aren't physiological changes or cycles that change the nature of responsiveness, but it has a certain fixed quality, not just the having sex part, but also the energy to raise children and to create resources to sustain a family. The sexual drive itself doesn't change that much. There's a certain amount of consistency even in terms of the quality and the quantity of sexual drive in a person with a defined sacral. When you have open sacral people in relationship with defined sacral people, sometimes it's disappointing or it can be quite perplexing because the open sacral person don't necessarily understand why their partner is so fixed in this particular area of their life. Last but not least, generators need to remember to have used up their energy at the end of the day. They need to have emptied the energy tank when they put their head on the pillow at night, else they can have a really hard time falling asleep. With an undefined sacral, you are able to amplify other people's life force energy, but it's not sustainable for you in the long run. That's why your energy comes in bursts. The open sacral can only ride the fumes of conditioned sacral energy for a certain period of time, meaning you only have superpowers, so to speak, for a short period. And the trick is knowing when to stop. The wisdom here is to know when enough is enough. Rest and down cycles are necessary and essential, especially for the manifester, projector, and reflector types, which does not have defined sacral centers in order for them to stay healthy and aligned with their own way of sustaining their energy. An unbalanced sacral can lead to burnout, exhaustion, disconnection from the physical body, lack of creativity, and so on. The current societal and financial setup we live in, projectors usually burn out in their 30s to start 40s. Manifestors can usually, let's call it, fake it a little longer since they have a motor center in their design connected to their throat center, which is giving them some initiating energy and thus a few extra years to run on. So maybe they burn out around year 50. And that is, of course, if they for years are trying to operate as generators when they don't actually have sacral energy consistently available to them. The reflector energy in nature is a little bit different. They're really designed to hold energy differently than a projector and a manifester. So they oftentimes don't burn out because they are always able to sort of hold the energy of whatever they are, but sometimes they do also burn out as well if they try and push themselves too hard. The source of the burnout for all three types is, generally speaking, the open sacral center. And there is a certain amount of energy that's available for work for all these types. But the key is entering into the work relationship correctly. The projector needs to be recognized and invited. Manifestors need to follow their internal nonverbal creative flow to find the right work. And reflectors need time to accept and align with the right work circumstances. All these types need rest and restoration in order to be able to use that openness and that borrowed sacral energy effectively without burning out. The open sacral has a deep wisdom about workforce and life force energy, and it's these three types that sees the potential, but it's the defined sacral that translate that potential into the work and the effort necessary to build it in the physical world. The open sacral often has a lot of fear or pressure around needing to work to create financial resources and financial flow. So the challenge in the life of an open sacral is learning to trust in the flow of creative abundance, learning to let go and follow the flow of where the energy is, and know that the resources you need will show up for you. But that takes an awful lot of faith and trust in Source, God, or the universe. And it is really a deeply spiritual curriculum to master. With an open sacral, you are not meant to work like a generator. But oftentimes there is a real self breach in self worth that happens when the open sacral runs out of energy and can't work anymore. So there's a lot of learning and a lot of healing that often needs to happen in learning to trust in the universal support and learning how to tap into that support. In terms of sex and sexuality, Somebody with an open sacral can have a lot of variety in their sexual experiences. They can have partnerships that feels really rich and juicy, and some are really dry and crispy. And it will be different kinds of sexual experiences with different partners. Sometimes the open sacral person will spend a lot of energy and effort trying to convince the defined sacral person to be different in their sexual drive and their sexual energy. It doesn't mean that you can't grow and explore together in relationship, but recognizing that when you have an open sacral, if you're in a relationship with a person with a defined sacral, you better like their sacral energy and how it operates, because if not, you're kind of stuck with it, because that's the nature of who your partner is. It's not personal, but it is an important piece to pay attention to, because that part of the relationship might not change that much. Sexuality in a relationship where there are two undefined sacral centers might be something that is not necessarily a big theme in the partnership. The not self theme of the undefined sacral center is not knowing when enough is enough. So try and ask yourself the following question: do I know when enough is enough? Do you actually stop when your body gives you the signals to do so? Or do you try to force more energy so you can work more or longer, stay at a place or with people longer than what you know is good for you, or to fulfill a promise to yourself or others? There can be a lot of healing in setting boundaries for yourself and to keep those boundaries when it comes to honoring your inherent energy. By now, you have probably already felt the bodily pain that comes with pushing through energy you don't inherently have consistent access to. And speaking from experience, it's important you give yourself time every day to properly rest and release the energy that you have amplified, so you can get back into your own energy, back to feeling good in your own body. Try and ask yourself, how can I connect to what my body is currently asking of me? And how can I make space to honor that? The better you feel in your body, the better you will feel going through life in general, which also influences your mindset and emotions, which ultimately leads to what you choose and create in your reality.